Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well, while learning the truth, 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And in today's video is going to be a World War III news update. So as you can see, I got this video here from NY Prepper, and this is breaking news. It says a Russian sub off of Long Island. So, you got a Russian submarine off of the coast of New York City, in Long Island. Then it says you got Israel planning another strike on Iran, man. So you see things are constantly heating up with this whole World War III that's happening, because we know ultimately World War III will take place because it's a major part of prophecy. But we're ultimately just waiting on that MOTBC hip to get made mandatory for it to really, intensify to the point where those nukes are going to be shot off. But you still got, the conflicts over there in the Middle East and this whole situation with Russia and Ukraine. All of these different conflicts are heating up, man. They're getting more intensified. So I'm going to get into this video and we're going to listen to what it is that NY Prepper is saying. And I'm going to get a few precepts, and Lord's willing to be edifying. But I'm going to say fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes, only fair use.
Eastern time here in the United States. And we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East and from here in the U.S. So right now we have a U.S. P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter patrolling the east coast of the U.S., which could mean that there's a Russian sub off the east coast of the U.S. It's been a long time since I've seen one of these P-8 Poseidon sub-hunters fly a path like this. It took off from Jacksonville Naval Air Station, which is the home of the P-8 Poseidons, and it flew up to New England. Interestingly, it flew along the south shore of Long Island, then it flew around Cape Cod, and it went up to Maine.
The EPA has confirmed PFAS contamination in
Salakia, brothers and sisters, Salakia.
It went up to Maine, and it did this loop up here in Maine, and now it's coming back. So there could be some kind of Russian sub here off the coast of New England. Now, also, we have a U.S. aerial refueler that is heading towards Cuba right now. Check this out. It's right off the coast of Cancun. This is pretty interesting, so we'll have to monitor this and see what happens. We know that a Russian VIP went to Nicaragua and Cuba over the weekend, so we'll have to see why this U.S. refueler.
And you basically hear everything in which it is that he's talking about. And I'm actually get these precepts that I got real quick, because we know ultimately that, Cuba is an ally to Russia, man. And, actually it was just happening not too long ago where you actually had Russia. They had docked some of their nuclear submarines in Cuba. So it's no coincidence that, you got the United States ultimately going towards Cuba and things of that nature, man, right along with them talking about Russian nuclear submarine off of the coast of Long Island. Because we know ultimately Russia and America are going to go head up with one another, man. That's what everything is going to resort to. It tells you about that in Ezekiel chapter 38. How the Lord is going to put the thought in Og and Magog, which is Russia, to think an evil thought, man. And that's going to be to shoot those nuclear missiles right along with America's allies and these other nations that are confederate against America upon this place, man. So that's why you got all of these nations ultimately doing the things that they're doing, man, because they're ultimately preparing. They're doing exercises, drills, and things of that nature. So when the real time does come, which is coming very soon, everything is just going to go according to plan, man. So that's what you see these nations mainly doing. Everything that they're doing are test runs, getting themselves prepared, equipped, make sure everything is in place. So in the real scenario, which is World War III, when it does pop off and go critical, all of these nations are already going to have all of their things set up in their position to shoot their weapons upon this place, right? So I'm going to go to this precept right here. This is St. Matthew chapter 24, and I'm going to start at verse 6 in the KJV, because we know ultimately Lord Yahweh Shai told us that, these things will be happening in the latter days, and we know ultimately that World War III will occur That is all part of prophecy, and that this event will get catastrophic, but it won't get nuclear until that MOTBC hit is made mandatory. You know, we still have the chip that needs to come forth before World War III can really reach its highest peak to, you know, when things are really going to get critical, man. So this is Matthew 24:6. It said, and ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars, right? So these are what you would consider rumors of wars, even though we know it is going to turn into an actual literal war. But it's only rumors now, speculations, talks of it. It's not going to get intensified until, like I said, that chip is made mandatory, man. So we really just waiting on the MOTB. But everything is already set in place for World War III, man. It says, see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And the end is going to be the thermonuclear destruction, you know, of America and the land of Israel. And that won't come until, like I said, the chip is mandated. So that's really what we're waiting on, man. But you do have all of these nations preparing. The Lord is putting the spirit in their minds to get ready for this war, man, to prepare to fight. Because that's exactly what they're going to do, man. Russia and America, all of these nations, everybody is going to come up against the war, man. You know, and that's what you see everything being set in place for, man. So I'm going to actually go to that, right? This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 1, but the point is at verse 8. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? And it's at a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, right? A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, right? A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, right? This is the point, verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's the time of season that we're in right now, war. You know, that's what Yahweh Shem Yahushua ultimately has on the spirit of all of these nations, man. That's why you continue to keep seeing Israel and Iran going up head to head with one another, man. Right along with you had Donald Trump just coming out, I believe, last week or the week after that, you know, basically talking about how there was alleged ceasefire deal going on between them. But here it is again. You got Israel and America preparing for another strike on Iran, man. So like I said, we're living in a time of season of war, man. And we know that no peace is going to come into this world, man, or to this place, America. You know, only thing is coming is destruction, man, for Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. So I'm going to actually get to this precept right here as well. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, right, which is what you hear a lot of these nations ultimately talking about, you know, mainly over here in the West, America, Donald Trump, you know, that's what he's been pushing for the last few weeks, you know, heavily, peace and ceasefire deals and all of this different type of stuff. We know ultimately that it won't be any peace, man. So it says, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape, right? Because the destruction is going to come when these people least suspect it. You know, and I'm going to read on down. It said, verse 4, but ye brethren, right, talking about the believers, us hopeful elect brothers and sisters, are not in darkness, right? That day should overtake you as a thief, right? Because we know that this place, America, is going to be destroyed. We know that World War III is going to happen. We know these things, right? So these days, when they actually begin to come and to manifest, it won't overtake us as a thief, because we know this stuff is going to happen, man, right? Because the Lord have revealed unto us his seekers, man, right? As it tells you in Amos 3 and 7, how the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets to the servants, the prophets. Lord's will, we be those men. You know, we be of the elect, of course, but we know that these things are going to happen. So we're not in the dark like everybody else that don't know these things are actually taking place, right? And this is verse 5. It said, ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness, right? So we're not living in la-la land. We're not delusional. We're not caught up with the affairs and the cares of this life, you know, because we know what's about to come. We know everything in which it is that these people ultimately like and what they're subscribing to and what they love to indulge in now. That is all about to come to an end very soon, man, that the Lord is really about to rock this place, man. You know, that is about to be judgment coming on all sides, man. You're finna have everything happening at one time. You know, you're going to have World War III popping off over there in the Middle East. I mean, you're going to have civil unrest, chaos, and all of these different things taking place here in America and over the world. So, I mean, hey, it's about to get real bad out here, but we know these things, right? And it says, This is verse 6. It said, therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober, right? And that's what we're doing, brothers and sisters. We got to constantly be watching and being sober, man, because this is a lot of stuff that's happening, right? When you think things are not taking place, trust me, it's a lot of stuff that's taking place in this earth, man. That's why the Lord always told us to watch, man. It tells you that in 1 Peter 4:7, to watch as well as pray, man. So we got to be doing that more than ever in this time and season that we're in, knowing that prophecy is fulfilling quickly, man, because we know that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua said that he was shortening up the days in the last days, which is the time that we're in. And I'm actually go to that precept, right, through the Spirit. This is St. Matthew chapter 24. And I'm going to start at verse 21. It said, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So we're getting ready to come into a time like never before, man. You're going to have chaos and all type of evils happening from all sides, right? And this is verse 22. It said, and except those days should be shortened, that should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, right? Those days shall be shortened. So that's why we're seeing all of these prophecies speed up quicker, man. Because, the Lord is ultimately doing it all for his elect's sake, man. Because this is about to get very serious out here, man. These wars are going to pop off eventually. They're already popping off now, of course, but on a smaller scale. But they're going to continue to intensify and intensify. And we know it's only going to get worse and worse with America preparing to, attack Iran again, right along with the help of Israel. That's just going to make the situation more worse than what it already is. And we know with America being on Israel's side, that's going to draw in Og, which is already protecting Persia, which is modern day Iran. They're protecting them and giving them bombs and resources, and said they was going to give them nuclear weapons not too long ago to defend themselves. So, all of this stuff is being built up for disaster, man, because that's what's ultimately going to play out, and we know that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is ultimately the one that's controlling all of these things, man. As it tells you in Proverbs 21:1. That the king's heart, meaning his mind, is in the hands of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the Lord is the one that's controlling the minds of these heathens, and putting the spirit on them to prepare for war, man, and to get ready, and to be attacking one another and things of that nature, because it's all leading up to the big battle, man, which is going to happen in the valley of Jehoshaphat, man, where the Lord is going to drag all of these nations down to the Middle East to fight, man. And that's when our Lord Yahushua is going to show up in the midst of that battle, man. That's what everything is building up towards. But we know before that can happen that, like I said earlier, that MOTB chip has to be made mandated, So I'm actually getting this precept that I got right here. This is Revelations chapter 11, right? And I'm going to start at verse 14. In the KJV, it said the second woe was past, right? Talking about World War II. It already occurred from 1939, I believe, to 1945. And it said, and behold, the third woe, right? Talking about World War III coming quickly, man. And that's what everything is ultimately leading up towards. The Battle of Armageddon, man. Right? That it tells you about in Revelations. And that word Armageddon in the Hebrew means Armageddon, which means mountain of troops, man. Which is what the Lord is going to do. He's going to gather up all of these different nations to come down there to fight in the Middle East, man. And I'm actually go to a precept just to prove that as well. Right? I'm going to go to the book of Joel, chapter 3. And I'm going to go to verse 2, right? And it says, I will also gather all nations, right? Talking about these heathen nations, right? All of the nations that you ultimately see at odds with each other right now. All of these nations that are preparing for war. The North Koreans, the Chinese, the Arabs, all of these different nations, Esau, all of these nations, man, right? And will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? Which in the Hebrew means Yahweh Shaphat, where the Lord is ultimately going to bring forth his judgment upon these heathens, man. Right? And it said, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So ultimately, World War III is just going to be the Lord's coming together these nations to ultimately to judge them, man, for what they have done unto his people, man. Right? This is what everything is leading up towards. Right? So this is Joel chapter 3, and I'm going to go down to verse 9. It said, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right? Which in this sense is talking about these heathen nations. It says, prepare war. Right. And that's what you see them doing. That's why you got Vladimir Putin putting nuclear submarines off of the coast of Long Island, New York, man. They're preparing. They're getting ready. That's why you got Iran receiving all of these benefits, all of these drones, all of these different types of technology and capabilities from these other nations that they're allied with, because the Lord is putting the Spirit on them to prepare, man, to get ready, right? And it says, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? And this is what's going to happen very soon, man. Verse 10, it said, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. And that's what you have happening now. You had all of these nations that were once upon a time considered weak nations, right? Like Iran, they didn't possess nuclear capabilities. Now they have nuclear capabilities because they ultimately have Russia, which it tells you in Ezekiel 38, that is going to be that guard, meaning that protector unto these nations, man. So now that's why you have the weak saying that they're strong now, man. And this is verse 11. It said, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. You see, because Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is ultimately controlling everything, man. Verse 12, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And this is what we see everything leading up towards, man. The judgment of these heathen nations, man. And the Lord is going to do that via the Third World War. So that's what we basically see everything leading up to it. So, I'm going to get back into this video so we can finish listening to what it is he's saying. But this is what everything is leading up to, brothers and sisters.
Is flying off the coast of Cuba this afternoon. And Iranian intelligence officials are saying that Israel, backed by Trump, is preparing to restart its war against Iran. And Axios is reporting that Israel is preparing for possible military action if Iran revives its nuclear program, with officials believing Trump may support renewed strikes. Okay, so we have multiple sources now saying that Israel...
Right. So you basically got a gist of everything in which it is he's saying, but, no peace is coming, man. Only thing is coming is destruction, man, and that's the time of season that we're in, man. As I read earlier in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're in the time and season of war. And that's what Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is about to allow to manifest throughout this earth. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying to you brothers and sisters that come across it. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom.